Hey, what's up, everybody? It's Charlie from 4BZ Truth. I am heading to work again, and it's my Friday, so I'm super excited about the weekend. And lucky for me, I get a 3-day weekend. So, anyways, I'm just kind of looking forward to all my responsibilities or whatever. But let me just get straight to the point. I feel like this topic is actually really important, and I know that I talk a lot about some weird philosophical science, religious type stuff, and if for those of you that actually sit through all of my spiels, God bless you. I appreciate it. I mean, sometimes I kind of get ranty, and I end up, sometimes I'll go back and listen to what I say, and sometimes I jump from one topic to the next, and it kind of seems convoluted. And some of the people that I get comments from are, a little bit lost, but there's other people that actually are tracking with me. So regardless, I appreciate anybody that appreciates my perspective. So but I feel like this topic I'm about to get into is probably the most controversial thing, and I lose probably like 5 subscribers plus or minus every time I post a video like this. And I don't feel like it's very popular, so that's why it's difficult for me to even want to talk about it sometimes, because there's no reasoning with somebody over cognitive dissonance. And if you're not familiar with what that is, if you ruffle someone's feathers by something that they disagree with, they're not going to want to hear you out. And oftentimes people disagree with something regardless of whether it's true or not. They just want to defend their position. And I was one of those guys for a long time, and I would say probably 5 years ago almost, April of 2015, so I guess 4 years ago, I saw Mark Sargent's Flat Earth Clues, and I also watched this guy John the Morgile talk about some weird philosophical ideas about how people can deceive you, and and then I've been hearing this philosophy about it's easier to believe a lie than to convince somebody that they've been lied to. And that I'm realizing more and more every day that that's probably one of the most true statements that I've ever heard, because I talk a little bit about this don't dump the baby out with the bathwater thing. And there's nothing more true than that either, because sometimes people, when they draw a conclusion, they don't care about anything else that might go along with that, such as a belief just in general. Sometimes I generalize things because it just kind of paints a picture for you, but I can be more specific too. But generally speaking, people are mostly interested in validating their perspective, and they will reject anything else that might go along with that. So with that said, I got to talk to you about world deception. And when I talk about world deception, I'm talking about our world. And that also transcends into the concept of our reality or our paradigm. People's ideas of reality is really contingent on how they're philosophically approaching information. And I just got to put this out there right now. If there's people out there that don't care about the flat earth concept, that's fine. Just hear me out and try to understand how this actually ties into philosophy in general, and not just philosophy, but science. Because people will say philosophy is not science, but the reality is your interpretation of the evidence falls back on your philosophical perspective. So if you're so really this is the root issue of why does it matter? Well, this is why it matters, because your viewing lens of our world and our reality may determine the outcome of how our society works and how we relate to each other. And as far as I can see it, people in the U.S. are greedy, and they're selfish, and they're prideful and boastful. And I'm not saying that there's not people out there all over the world, and I'm not saying that sums up so go back to the baby in the bathwater. I'm not categorizing everybody in that blanket statement. I'm just saying that in general, people are struggling with that, and I don't think that a lot of people even care. And I want people to care. I want people to look within themselves and see that there's a lot at stake with how they approach this life. So, I often think about this concept of, the ant or the bee hive or colony. You have this organism of individual insects that basically chemically are controlled by, they're given instructions or they basically, like say for instance, an ant hill or an ant colony. You have one ant that's out looking around for food or whatever. And I'm talking about this because I have ants walking around inside my kitchen, looking around for food. But when one ant finds like a little spot that has sugar in it or something, they're going to say, oh crap, I just found some food. I'm going to mark my little food spot, and I'm going to go back to the colony so that they can follow my path back. So that's how you have little paths of ants that go back to the food source. And the reason this is relevant to me is I look for patterns in this reality on there being a creator, right? So I believe God puts little signs out there that you could say prove his signature on reality, or on this this world. I often use the word reality because this is our reality. But anyways, so these ants are basically working together as a social network, and they're independent, but they're actually working for each other. They're an organism. And I think that that's a great model of who we should be. Although we're more like rogue individuals and we're just kind of doing our own thing. Yet we adhere to the consensus view, which you could say is almost like a form of control, like a hive mind. And although if we're receiving the wrong instructions, we're going to ultimately scatter, or we're going to how about this scenario? You have the human body that has like a trillion or multi-trillion cells working together, and if there's a rogue group of cells that decide that they're not going to do what the function of the body is, well, they're going to end up creating cancer. And I look at our society like when we're not working together, we're actually almost like we're growing cancer. There's going to be, you find that a lot in cities, like large cities. The bigger the city, the more independent and more selfishly minded and But I don't know, maybe I can't throw a blanket statement on that, but that's kind of the pattern that I notice. But so again, this whole thing about like the flat earth, I know that I've already lost a few of you, but for those who remain listening to me, please understand why this matters. I don't really care about the shape of the earth. Let's just put that out there right now. I just look at the implications of control that not just the government, but the media, the wealthy people out there, whatever. I mean, let's just call it the satanic government. What that means is there's a satanic agenda, and spiritually speaking, people are under a control of demonic influence or whatever, and they're going to implement their agenda based on whatever control is basically calling the shots in their own mind and their soul and whatever. Now, I'm not fully convinced that people are just possessed by a demon, but there's people out there that when they get it in their mind to do something like be greedy or have an agenda to create wealth for themselves or whatever. Yeah, I mean, there's some people that are not greedy, but they're just motivated people, and then they create jobs and whatever. And then the byproduct of that is being wealthy. But there are people that are just driven by money, and there's a lot of people that are driven by fame. There's a lot of people that are driven by power. And, that's the kind of stuff that corrupts. That's what happens to individuals when they feel like they need to draw all the attention to themselves or serve themselves somehow. Now, I'm often looking at myself and looking in my own heart, and I'm realizing that I'm not perfect. I'm worried about money. I'm worried about caring for my son and feeling like selfish every once in a while. And when I feel proud and I'm unwilling to admit when I'm wrong, yeah, I freaking struggle with that stuff too. I think there's elements of that in everybody. But there's some people that just let it manifest in them, and it takes them over. So let me get back on track here, though. I was on a trip with my brother-in-law. Now, he's kind of a prestigious type person. He's a physician, and I kind of get the feeling that he won't listen to this because I don't think he subscribes to the mindset that I have at all. When you have kind of that mainstream personality and you trust everybody, you don't have that cynicism toward people that are in control. But I feel like okay, so let me go back to the story. We were going sturgeon fishing over in the Snake River, which was amazing, by the way. And but on our drive home, we were just kind of talking, and not just him, but two other friends. They started talking about the flat Earth and how stupid people are for believing it. Now, my initial reaction was I just stayed silent, because even though I've looked into this a lot and I wasn't fully convinced that this Earth is flat or if it's a simulation or whatever, I felt like I don't want to engage in this conversation, because once I open my mouth and make myself sound stupid to them, regardless of whether it's true or not, they're going to judge me, and it's going to stick, and I'm going to have some problems in the family. I'm the guy that believes the Earth is flat or whatever. And because there's obviously a stigma with somebody that believes the Earth is flat. And, anybody that believes the earth is flat is obviously stupid. And, that's kind of like the mindset that people have. And go figure, look at how people have just been openly ridiculed and rejected for even considering the idea. And they're like, well, appeal to scientists. That scientists have already proven, and I said this on the last video, anybody that says, oh, there's a proof, or, oh, there's a study that proves, and I know, and a lot of you know, that doesn't jive with me. That doesn't prove anything. I was listening to this guy, Robert Bassano, Planete Veritas, and one of my favorite channels, but he hasn't put anything out lately. He might have some new content that I just haven't seen yet, but he always brings back that quote, it's not what you know, it's what you can prove. People could say, oh, I have all the information right here. Here's the equation that I came up with for my theoretical idea. And by the way, physics and cosmology are mostly theoretical, and it's all based on like trigonometry, some mathematical equation that people don't even understand anyway. In general, I mean, people just that aren't well educated in that area. I mean, I'll be honest, I'll throw myself under the bus and make myself sound like a moron, but the furthest I got in math was algebra 2 and geometry, so whatever. But that's beside the point. Perception, just the way that we perceive the world. Yeah, there are illusions that we could be fooled by. So it's possible to be deceived, or it's possible to deceive ourselves. But that's beside the point. Let's just kind of put that out there for a second and say, yes, I've considered these things. I've considered that I could be deceiving myself. I've kind of reviewed this from every angle. And so if anybody says, it's hard to have a good flow of information when it comes to like all the freaking crap that's bouncing around in my head. But people always say the same thing, like why would the earth be flat? Because all the planets are spherical. Okay, well, does a pool table have spherical balls on it? Yeah, but the table's flat. So you could say that might be a good argument for the case of the flat earth, because really the model is just that everything is flat, and then the luminaries are a different thing up in the sky. And when you look at what was the guy's name from around 200 BC or whatever, or maybe it's 100 BC, or I don't know, Eratosthenes. They say that they knew the earth was around ever since like 2,000 years ago, or plus or minus. And if you've looked into the experiments of Eratosthenes, you would know that if you measure the curvature based on the shadows of the sun, when he was measuring these obelisks that were casting a shadow, and they had different shadows. And so anyways, it can be calculated the same if you were on a flat earth in a close sun. So 93 million mile away sun yeah, you could calculate curvature in there and the circumference of the Earth, but the calculations are the same if you had a close Earth that was like or a close sun that was like 3,000 miles away. Now, so that more or less, kind of throws that quote unquote proof out. Now, I didn't really want to build a case for the flat Earth on this video. I really didn't. I just wanted to kind of show that the philosophical approach that people have to belief. And I mean, I could prove to you the Earth is flat. I really can. And but somebody will look at that same evidence and say, I just don't see how anybody could come up with a deception like that, and then everybody uniformly is willing to join in on the deception or whatever. There must have been thousands of people involved in that deception, and that may be true, but the way that I know that the government works is the government is compartmentalization. So anybody that is need to know basis is going to know, and the other people will not know. So even the people that are contributing, to the system are not in the know. I gotta tell you, I work for a company right now. I do electronics, and I freaking work for companies that are in aerospace, and they subcontract for NASA or SpaceX, or not just that, but like there's the Loon program, or Google Loon. They make satellites for the Loon program, which is so weird because I remember when people thought I was a moron when I was trying to prove that there was a balloon satellite program, and I felt like that was the only way that you could make satellites work, just based on some of the things that I've been seeing. Now, so the interesting thing about that is I can prove now, it's not what you can prove. I can prove that there are satellites on balloons because we make them at my job. We make them at my job. So with that said, I mean, we just need to have the discussion and stop rejecting the conversation. Because I know a lot of the people that are listening to me are into the whole spirituality thing, and as soon as you start investigating this, you're ruffling your own feather. You're gonna start questioning your own reality, and that's why I'm here. That's why I'm making videos. I want people to question things. And I know that it's hard to trust people like me when you trust others that are authoritative. I'm not asking you to trust me. I'm just asking you to consider that your perspective has the wrong foundation. And I don't want to hurt people. I don't want to freaking ruin your reality. I want to have this conversation with people because I think it's important to realize that if the world is being deceived to this degree, I think that we need to consider that maybe we're contributing to that deception I don't want to contribute to the deception. I really don't. I don't want to lead you down a road of deception either. If you think I'm trying to promote something that's a lie, I'm not necessarily promoting it. I'm just saying, look at it for what it is and consider the alternatives, and stop being biased in your outlook on everything. And I think that I don't know. I want to just keep talking, but I'm kind of struggling with the fact that I have to go to work on time, and I'm already a little late. And I think it's important that I support my family, and that's the life. This is the world that we live in. So we just have to work to sustain. And so for those of you that have listened to this point, I'm sorry if I didn't really wrap it up fully, but I do think that the crux of all of this is you're operating from a philosophy, and I believe that it's important that you consider the alternative worldviews, and I think ultimately the implications are vast, and it's important that you embrace truth regardless of where the truth path leads you. And I don't know. I know that truth hurts sometimes, and it makes people upset, and it causes division. But that's what's interesting about Jesus, is he says that I didn't come to bring people together, I came to divide. And he says, I'm the way, the truth, and the life. The fact that he's the truth makes me think, okay, he is going to divide people. And because that's what the truth does, is it divides, because people choose to live in deception and lies. And somebody's response to this might say, oh, you must be deceived yourself because you believe that the earth is flat. Again, I'm open-minded. If someone can convince me that the world is a globe, I'm already convinced that everything that is considered proof is a deception. So but I'll leave it at that. I love you guys, and I really, really appreciate any support that you give me, just listening and hearing what I have to say. Please subscribe, like this video, share it, whatever you want to do. I hope that you guys have an amazing day. Please leave a comment. I'd love to engage with you on this thought, and I'll talk to you later. All right, bye.